This guy has a second channel where he drives expensive cars. Wait, no way. Link me. No shot. Link or ban. After so many vids about climate change, you're gonna upload videos about supercars? Am I the only one who sees the hypocrisy? Do as I say, as I do. Don't be ignorant. The 6 biggest cruise ship, 6 produce more emissions than every car on the road. Focus your anger where it counts.
Believe it or not, the Republicans are not the only major right-wing political party in America. Of course, there are smaller conservative groups like the Libertarian Party.
It's the whole in Europe, all the political dichotomy exists between left and right, and there are so many healthy, strong, powerful left-leaning, not left-leaning, but leftist governments. In the Labour Party in the UK is a shining example of socialism. The Swedish Social Democrats are the most socialist government, like all the socialisms all across Europe. But in America, we have 2 evil right-wing parties.
And the Constitution Party, but for all intents and purposes...
Never mind the fact that the UK literally just ejected itself from the not the Soviet Union, from the European Union over immigration, but...
And contrary to what you've probably heard your whole life, the Democratic Party might as well join them on that list. How else could we categorize a party that blocks movement to the left, passively accepts movement to the right, and sometimes even embraces conservatism outright? In this episode, we're looking at how the Democrat...
I like the flashing. I hate this guy so much. I actually hate this guy. He is one of the biggest propaganda, and he does it in this bullshit like, I'm a video essayist, so I'm just reading you facts.
Even embraces conservatism out.
I like how his example of embracing conservatism is Biden administration increases border deportations and prosecutions to deter migration. Because every time a Democratic president rolls around, you get this huge influx of people that think that they can legally migrate to the country easier, which maybe some can, maybe some can't, or whatever, to try to pretend like the Democrats and the Republicans have the same stance on migration, right? One party tried to give us DACA, and the other party tried to take it away. Like, how are you going to pretend at all like both sides are the same on this? It is so mind of destiny to debate him. This type of guy will never, ever, ever talk to somebody who disagrees with him. This is the type of guy that exclusively does video essay content and then circle jerks with a whole bunch of other dipshit lefties and will never challenge his opinions ever. All of his fucking videos are dog shit. Are you gonna fact check everything like you did with Rogan? I'm too lazy to do that, but like, even in this guy's videos, there's not even usually stuff to fact check because it's usually just like, broad conspiratorial claims with like no actual data. Like he doesn't actually like cite polls or cite studies or cite data. He just like links like a fucking article and is like, oh yeah, so the Democrats are all taking money from fucking corporate donors and they move us further and further to the right. And Democrats actually the same as Republicans because they agree on like some things like Israel, they're the same thing, right? Like this is all of this guy's videos are like this. There's not even like a debunking or fact check to do. It's just broad conspiracies asserted with zero fucking evidence that like weave together to make a compelling story for a fucking tanky to jerk off to.
Right. In this episode, we're looking at how the Democratic Party takes advantage of the current electoral system to stop, to the best of its ability, the progress of left-wing politics and how it even actively promotes a right-wing agenda. We're talking about something called the Ratchet effect. If you've been following this channel for a while, you've probably already heard me talk about the absurdly stunted American political landscape. If you're new here, the basic idea is this. American politics lean heavily to the right. On one side of the aisle, the Republican Party espouses alarmingly far-right politics, more extreme in their nature than even some notable far-right parties in European politics, like the National Rally in France and UKIP in the UK. Often left out of the story, though, is that the Democratic Party...
I don't know if the... Oh, I would have to dig in to go back to Marie Le Pen's shit. I don't know if the mainstream Republican narrative is necessarily as far right as like Marie Le Pen's party in France. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Or you can, I would have to go through and like dig through their policy positions or whatever. But like, but okay. The National Front is pretty insane. Yeah.
Is also on the right. Perhaps not by US standards, but in the range of political ideologies, both parties are devoted to neoliberalism and the ideology's strict adherence to free international trade, austerity, and highly privatized economies. This means that at the end of the day...
Oh. Well, hold on. I'm trying to think if even Republicans believe in austerity because Trump spent like a motherfucker. But I guess you could argue that any cut to like a welfare program is austerity. But Trump, austerity is like first of all, I think it's usually a term Europeans use more, although you could arguably apply to the American system. But like, damn, Republicans spend like fucking crazy. But I guess you could argue that austerity, even if you're spending like crazy, just means you're threatening to cut private programs, I guess. Or I'm sorry, like publicly funded programs maybe, but...
Democrats and Republicans disagree on relatively few things, and most of those things are minor aesthetic differences or the usual hot-button culture war topics.
Oh, I love that, like, this is what I like about being a white guy, is that for all the shit that, like, they do disagree on, like, who the fuck cares? Like, who cares about trans people, or who cares about, like, DACA? Like, bro, I'm white. I'm, like, nationally, like, a citizen. Like, I don't have to worry about shit like that. It doesn't affect me. These are, like, minor, like play issues. I care about really important things, like, how do people, like, look at the term socialism in U.S. politics, or, like that's, like, ugh. I don't think austerity is used much at all today. Really? I feel like when I hear austerity, I feel like it's usually used in European context. We never use the word austerity in the US. I would be surprised if like more than 2% of Americans knew what is austerity. I think austerity generally refers to tightening government budgets by cutting like social spending. I think generally, but we never use this word in the US. Difficult economic conditions created by government measures to reduce public expenditure. Yeah. So like in the US, when we say like fiscal responsibility, maybe that's like an austerity like utterance kind of. Yeah.
But stopping our analysis there ignores the special role Democrats play in the American political system. Democrats actively enable the Republican agenda. In politics, this is called the Ratchet effect. The idea goes something like this. When Republicans hold power, the gears of the ratchet engage and the machine begins to move to the right, happily clicking along as policies pass, judges are replaced, and budgets are approved. Come the time when Democrats return to power, the ratchet is meant to move left, but the party acts as the pawl, immobilizing the gears, meaning the ratchet remains completely stuck until Republicans return to power and things go back to moving right again. In the real world, this ratchet effect can be seen when Democrats do any, or frequently all, of three things: passively accept movement towards the right, move to the right themselves, and block movement to the left. Let's
$15 an hour minimum wage set. I feel like this. What about him not showing any examples? Yeah, it's because he'll have like one article about one policy that even like. I feel like a lot of people, when they criticize the American political system, I've said this over and over and over again, and I feel like I'm proven right over and over and over again, and I feel like I'm just 100% correct on this. Progressives have this huge problem where they think that 75% of Americans are progressive. It's just the process that's fucking everything up. It's just corporate donations that are fucking everything up. You saw this when Nina Turner, I think, lost her election, right? Even though she outspent her opponent, they still blamed like the secret Jewish money coming in and destroying the election. Or like even when like progressives are losing across the United States, so they can't make headway into these other elections, it's because of corporate donors. It's because of media bias. It's because of this. It's because of that. It's because of Twitter wars. It's because the Republicans are lying. It's because blah, blah, blah. It's because they aborted all the vote, right? Like when all of this shit happens, Destiny, when did that happen? Nina Turner lost her election. And people said that the reason why was because in the last like stretch, there was a big advertising campaign by her political opponent who won. But people ignore the fact that she still outspent her political opponent and lost the election. I'm sorry. They might not have said Jewish money, but it was like the pro-Israel conspiracy where the people came from Israel and donated, and because it was like some big pro-lobbyist group that I think had like pro-Israel stances. I'm sorry. They didn't actually say like, she said dark money. She didn't say Jewish money. I'm sorry. I was being a little bit hyperbolic there. My bad. Or she said evil money, and it was a Jewish group, not Jewish money. My bad. Oh, no, that wasn't my bad. Fuck you. That wasn't important to what I was saying. But I'm just saying, like, progressives always have excuses for why they lose. There's always an excuse. And it's never, ever, 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 ever. It's never the case. It's never, ever the case. Maybe their policies just aren't as popular as they think they are. Wrong. That can never be the case. It's because it's the Ratchet effect. It's the Overton window is shifted too far to the right. It's manufactured consent. It's corporate lobbying. It's the Republicans playing dirty. It's the process. It's the filibuster. It's the Supreme Court. It's Mitch McConnell. There's always an excuse. There's always an excuse. But it can never be the case that maybe progressive policies just aren't 100% as popular as you think they are. And that's your big problem. Your big problem isn't overcoming the process. Your big problem is overcoming all of the conservative people, both Democratic conservatives and Republican conservatives, that exist in this country, because you haven't made the argument to them. You haven't convinced them yet that you're correct. That's the issue, right?
Start with that last one. It's becoming obvious that properly leftist ideas are gaining traction in the US. As I've mentioned in previous videos, more and more people are losing faith in capitalism and are looking elsewhere for options. Popularity in socialism is on the rise, and several policies Americans have typically considered left-wing, like universal health care, increased minimum wages, tuition-free college, and the federal legalization of marijuana are more popular than ever.
Wait. Does the legalization of marijuana, is that a left-wing thing? Can we call, what are we considering left-wing here? Is marijuana socialist? Did I miss that chapter in Capital? Is it just going to be everything that's good is left-wing and everything that's bad is right-wing? I'm super confused by that assertion, but I guess it's one way to... I don't know. It's funny because in some ways people be like leftists. Like, a leftist is not a Democrat, you dumb fuck. Progressives aren't leftists. Leftist means socialism. And then it's like, well, left means legal marijuana. Like, the fuck? Like, I don't think that's leftist. That might be a progressive idea or left-leaning idea, but I wouldn't call that leftist. I wouldn't call that socialist. And then in terms of things like, Medicare for all and national health care, like, these have always been things we've argued about. This is why fucking Barack Obama passed the Affordable Care Act, okay? Why are you acting like this is like some brand new fucking phenomenon? Like, these are things that have been gradually building steam over time. It's not a new fucking thing.
With around 2/3 of Americans and the overwhelming majority of Democratic voters supporting them. But these policies...
I like how he just hand waves over that, like most Americans support these things. Okay, if they do, then throw them up on a referendum, and then we'll see where they vote, right? Because in some states, the referendums pass. In other states, the referendums fail, right? Like, vote on it. Like, stop doing this. Hello. Stop doing national level polling and then pretending like that's how you solve issues in the United States. That's not how it works, okay? You cannot poll nationally on an issue and go, why isn't this legal? The entire fucking country doesn't vote via direct democracy on federal referendums to figure shit out. That's not how this country works. That's never how our political systems work. Stop doing that. Stop saying, here's a poll. This thing, 62% popular. That's great, 62% popular. How many fucking people live in the fucking state of California? Okay? California has a population of 40 million people. It's not proportionally represented in the House of Representatives, and there's 2 Senate seats allotted to California. All right? Stop doing a national level poll. It's like, well, why isn't this passed yet? It probably hasn't passed yet because the process doesn't enable things like this to pass. One state or just a majority of people, 55% of people, can't just like universally pass policies in the United States. That's not how it works.
And many, many others never become law. Why? Because Democrats aren't responding to the growth in popularity of leftism. In fact, they're actively resisting it. They do this in several ways.
They resist leftism because leftism isn't popular even in the Democratic Party. Oh God, he conflates so much shit. Just because you're in favor of like higher minimum wage or like universal healthcare or the fucking legalization of marijuana doesn't make you a leftist or a socialist. My brain has been fried. Republicans and conservatives and like left-leaning people on the internet are doing this really weird thing where we play like fast and loose all the time with what the fuck leftist means. Like, does leftist mean like socialist? Because that's what they'll argue with you about on the internet. They'll call you a dirty liberal and say, oh, you're not a leftist, you're a fucking capitalist, you're a fucking liberal. But then they'll be like, oh, leftist ideas like legalization of marijuana. What the fuck does that have to do with fucking socialism? What are you talking about?
Elections, it's as simple as Democratic elites clearing the path for their more centrist candidates.
Also, this is a conspiracy theory that is on par with the big lie. I put it exactly equal. Fuck you. Anybody that says it like the DNC rigged everything against Sanders, blah, 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 you are the exact same as like the Trump people that say that the election was rigged against Trump. Fuck you. Sanders was always behind in the polls. Sanders was behind the whole time. Other mainstream candidates were ahead the entire time. Sanders lost every time. The other mainstream candidates won every time. There is no mystery here. You're literally inventing, you're fabricating a conspiracy where you need not fabricate one. Like, the story behind Sanders in both primaries was candidate with the highest polling fucking favorability ends up winning the primary. That happened both times, okay? Like, stop trying to invent conspiracy. Stop trying to find conspiracy where there is none. We can explain it with the polling data. It was going to happen the entire time, every way.
Like Clinton and Biden by handing them endorsements and the keys to their more powerful...
Handing them endorsements? You're going to act like the process of actually securing endorsements isn't something that politicians do? You don't just get handed an endorsement. That's usually something you have to work for. That's usually that. And funny enough, this is one, like, especially people like Clyburn, this is one of the reasons why Bernie Sanders failed so much as a campaigner. God bless him, find what he does. But Bernie Sanders' inability to go and talk to people in the Democratic Party and secure these endorsements was a big reason why people would argue places like South Carolina or other parts of his campaign failed. You don't just get handed endorsements. Usually these are like relationships formed over a lifetime of political work or like a deliberate effort that you make as somebody running a campaign.
Powerful fundraising apparatus. The mainstream media also heavily favors these so-called moderates, offering effectively limitless free publicity and often outright slandering the more left-leaning candidates. But it doesn't stop there.
Why not? Maybe the mainstream media prefers these candidates because they're mainstream candidates that most viewers prefer. Like, why can it never be that? It's like never, it can never be that thing. It has to be a conspiracy all the time.
Once in government, the party's attachment to centrism only grows. We see this when Biden abandons the fight for a $15 minimum wage long before it starts, leading it to fail in the Senate.
I like how it's like it was Biden's fault that 15 an hour didn't pass. 15 an hour was DOA. That shit was never going anywhere. For not ignoring the fact that it's bad economic policy, you never ever had any of the center-leaning Dems. You never had wasn't there like, am I wrong, or weren't there like 8 Democrats that actually explicitly came out against a 15-hour minimum wage before it even like really got onto the floor? Like this was never happening. This was never ever happening with only 50 Dems in the Senate. Maybe if you had a bigger majority, maybe, but never with 50.
We see it in the infrastructure bill going from this to this. We see it in the complete silence of high-ranking Democrats when Amazon workers and Alabama coal miners attempt to unionize or go on strike, leaving them alone and without the support they were promised by America's so-called most pro-union president you've ever seen. Everywhere you look, the ratchet is frozen in place. They aren't fighting like hell for the little guy, they're getting in his way. Now, of course, when Republicans take control of government, the ratchet begins to move freely again. Policies get passed with purely performative resistance. Judges get appointed who uphold right-wing policies for decades. And the country continues trending towards the right. When
How were Democrats supposed to stop the appointment of judges? Was there even a theoretical aside from like a Democrat breaking into Capitol Hill with an AR-15? What were they supposed to do? Like the Republicans had the votes to get these nominations through without they didn't need any Democrats at all. I don't understand what he's talking about. What did they expect to happen in a video game?
Return to office, concentration camps along the southern border become immigrant.
Oh my God, dude. We're only 5 minutes through this 14-minute video. Holy shit.
Overflow facilities and remain open. Immigrants are told, do not come. The U.S. Embassy remains in Jerusalem despite an ongoing genocide, and military budgets continue to rise. Nothing quite illustrates the ratchet effect better than the U.S. corporate tax rate over time. These are the taxes that corporations have to pay, the same way you and I do when we earn our income. Back in 2017...
Wait, hold on, sorry. I was reading chat, let me listen to this.
Rates the ratchet effect better than the U.S. corporate tax rate over time. These are the taxes that corporations have to pay, the same way you and I do when we earn our income.
Oh God, whenever anybody talks about taxes, it drives me crazy. Oh, I'm not even gonna get it, whatever.
Back in 2017, Trump cut taxes for both the richest Americans and corporations, while giving effectively nothing to the rest of us but the promise of an eventual, fictional trickle-down. With this cut, Trump brought the corporate tax rate from an already low 35% down to a paltry 20%.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure the U.S. has one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world. U.S. tax rate, corporations compared. I'm pretty sure the U.S. is like one of the highest corporate taxes in the world. And even when you go by the effective tax rate paid, I'm pretty sure it's still like pretty high. Now, I don't know after Trump, maybe it's not, but because Trump cut it quite a bit. What was it prior to the Trump cut? Was it 30? It was 35%. It looks like the highest one. I think we had the highest posted corporate tax rate in the world. The effective was still over because France, I think, right now is the highest at 32%, was our highest, I think, the highest marginal bracket, but it should be higher. No, I don't like corporate taxes. I think corporate taxes are garbage. Just raise, like, if you want to do something, raise capital gains and raise personal income taxes. Fuck corporate taxes. Explain your position on corporate tax. Just who cares? I mean, like, I guess you can have like a little corporate tax rate if you want to incentivize reinvestment or whatever. But like, why tax corporate revenue? Like, just tax it when people get paid. That's how I view it. But whatever.
Shifting the tax burden even further onto the shoulders of average Americans and away from his party's corporate donors and himself. Thankfully, Biden is bringing it back up to 25%, 28% if we're lucky, 7 to 10 points lower than where it started. Here, the trend becomes clear. Year after year, Republicans push further and further for imperialist foreign policy, for xenophobic immigration restrictions, for rich Americans to hoard more and more wealth. Democrats come to appease the masses, promising they'll be different from the previous administrations, returning power to the people, but always less than they had before and never getting in the way of this greater rightward trend. This isn't to say Democrats never pass progressive legislation. They sometimes do, but it remains an
Dude, this is like watching, this guy's like the Lawrence Southern of the left, when he's like, sometimes Democrats do pass progressive legislation. Shows Bernie Sanders and fucking AOC, two people that are like not responsible for passing any fucking major legislation in the Senate or in the House whatsoever. Why the fuck are you showing videos of this? Oh my God.
exceptionally rare event, especially in comparison to the number of conservative policies that pass. And it's always less than what they promised, less than what they could theoretically achieve, and nowhere close to what would be considered progressive in other developed countries. Now, these are all situations where Democrats appear ineffective, where they try but fail to deliver on the demands of their constituents. But they can be far more harmful. Every time they gain power, Democrats adopt some new right-wing policy, pushing the left further outside the realm of acceptable politics, and allowing the right to claim even more outrageous amounts of ideological territory as it adopts, according to some, the trappings of a fascist state. We've seen this for decades. In the late 60s and 70s, it was law and order. A seemingly innocuous phrase coined by Nixon became realized in full force by Reagan's disastrous war on drugs. Law and order became one of the rallying cries of a political program that threw the black community, black men in particular, in jail with long sentences for so-called broken window crimes.
I wish that, like, and this is only something I know now because we've read so much about this, like, nobody talks about the 93 crime bill correctly. Everybody acts like the 93 crime bill was this extreme right-wing fucking policy that got passed that was like, it wasn't, dude. Everybody in the country supported the crime bill. Violent crime was at an all-time high in the 90s. Like, people were losing their minds over how fucked this country was. Black leaders, white people, like, everybody supported the 93 crime. Well, maybe not everybody, but, like, there was a lot of support to crack down and do something to stop crime. Now, obviously, we can go back and look at it and be like, okay, well, there are provisions of this that were bad. But I hate how people present this like so simplistic, like, oh, crime bill bad because we hate black people and criminals.
Minor crimes,
like Bernie fucking voted for the crime bill, you know, like
heavily punished. So that
not to mention that there were provisions
of
the crime bill that were really, really good. Like, I always forget the name of this, but it was the one that Biden, I think, authored this section. The protection for like domestic victims, for domestic abuse victims, which had like a measurable impact on decreasing domestic violence on women, like a measurable, like direct thing that, and like they reinstated that provision over and over again. The Violence Against Women Act. Yeah.
Crimes. Minor crimes.
Destiny, that's not true. What did I oh, I've seen you type a lot of stupid shit in chat. Hold on, am I banning you? What did I just say that's not true? Never mind, you just said dumb fuck.
Crimes heavily punished so that the state could showcase its power. Politicians drummed up fear of black and minority criminals.
No, they didn't have to drum up fear. Can we, violent crime rates, US rate should be over time anyway. You didn't have to drum up fear for this. Like, what? Why doesn't this guy like do any research or show a single graph or like do any type of like, if you're doing a video essay, like at least support your shit with data. Like we can look at like violent crime. Dude, it spiked like insanely in the fucking 90s. There's a reason why the crime bill got passed in 93. And it wasn't because politicians just drum up like fake fucking fear or they manufacture consensus. Like there was a reason why people were so freaked the fuck out about violent crime in the US. Yeah, like holy shit, like look at 80s movies that depicted like the future of the US, like fucking RoboCop or like Escape from LA or Escape from wait, true, like these movies show that like the future US was like this dystopian like fucking future ran by crime bosses and shit. Like, oh my god. Judge Dredd, Demolition Man, like holy fuck.
While simultaneously terrorizing non-white communities with an over-militarized police force. In the 90s, Democrats latched onto this Republican program with their own narratives. You may have heard the term super predator. This super predator...
I love that Republican arguments against like Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi are actually latched onto so fucking pathetically by these leftist like scum-sucking dipshits. These people that call themselves socialists and make tens of thousands of fucking dollars every month, but they hide it from you on their Patreon so that they don't actually like show themselves as the petite bourgeois that they actually are. Like it's so fucking hilarious to me how like they buy into all of this propaganda hook, line, and sinker. Jesus, you like leftists like uncover like 10-year-old propaganda hits against Democrats like, oh, soy, I knew the Dems were bad the whole fucking time. Trump told me so. I saw this on Tucker. Remember in Hassan? It's like, whoa, Tucker Carlson makes some great fucking points sometimes, guys. Like, oh my God, it's so dumb. Holy shit.
A young criminal with no remorse became the myth that glued the Democratic tough on crime program together. The Clinton administration in particular led its own wave of over-policing with the infamous crime bill, which included what was called 3 strikes lifetime sentencing, put more police on the streets, increased the scope of the death penalty, and of course, put more people in jail than ever before. These are not the policies of a left-
Wait, did Hassan really do that with Tucker? Didn't he have an exchange with Nicki Minaj over him? Yeah, because Hassan will move his positions to whatever the most aesthetically popular thing at the time. But there used to be a case like a year and a half ago. I don't know if Vosh fell into this trap too, but a whole bunch of lefties, because they've never talked to a conservative in their life, didn't realize that, wait, there's actually a lot of anti-corporate Republicans now. Like Charlie Kirk and like the Turning Point USA, like there's a lot of new age Republican, especially Trump Republicans that are anti-corporate. So whenever Tucker Carlson would come out on Fox News and be like, these large corporations are ruining America, people like Hassan, he tweeted this, you can go find the tweets if you want, are tweeting shit like, wow, dude, I can't believe that even Tucker Carlson is making these based points that CNN doesn't understand because they had no idea that like some conservatives were also like anti-corporate. Like it's fucking stupid as fuck.
Left-wing government. Generally speaking, Democrats are quick to jump on the police state bandwagon. We've seen it when the Biden administration tries to increase police funding and deploy it against Black Lives Matter protesters. We've seen it with the passage of the Patriot Act by a Democratic-led Senate back in
Wait, what? What?
We've seen it when the Biden administration tries to increase police funding and deploy it against Black Lives Matter protesters.
For most relevant police funding is done at the state or not even, is at the city level. I don't understand what this even means. Or can you tell me, what is he referring to specifically in terms of Biden employing police or deploying police against Black Lives Matter? What?
We've seen it with the passage of the Patriot Act by a Democratic-led Senate back in 2001.
Why are we talking about the Patriot Act still? What the fuck?
Over time, Democrats tack more and more right-wing politics.
I feel like this guy is like somebody decided to test. We're going to make an AI and we're going to have it troll through every fucking left-wing Twitter ever. And then we're going to just shit out videos with random pictures and buzzwords based on like what the left is tweeting at any point in time.
Onto their agenda, until the Democrats of today begin looking a lot like yesterday's Republicans. There are 2 main reasons the Democrats act this way. First, they rely heavily on large corporate interests. Weapons manufacturers, the pharmaceutical industry, and fossil fuel companies are some of the most influential sources of funding for both political parties, and so will necessarily drag the Democrats further to the right than their constituents and the American people in general want them to go. Just look at the Biden administration's stance on oil drilling. Second, the U.S. works on a
what is that? Just look at the Biden administration's stance on oil drilling. Wait, is the U.S. just supposed to say the Democrats supposed to be like, we're stopping oil? We're not going to do oil anymore? Wait, what does that even mean? Also, hold on, wait, am I wrong or didn't Biden stop tapping new reserves on federal land? And I thought they did something about fracking, but I might be wrong about that. I know that there were 3 huge pipelines that were canceled as well, but this might not even happen under Biden. I think the Keystone XL one, there was one in the Northeast, and the Dakota pipeline, I think all 3 are dead. I feel like we could make a bingo card for shitty lefty videos, and we could one of you guys should do that and post it to the subreddit. We should make like a bingo card for shitty lefty videos. One is like uttered the phrase manufactured consent, corporate donors, Overton window, what other? There's like so many left-wing like buzzwords. Medicare for all polling most popular. Oh yeah, Bernie Sanders is a centrist. Bernie or the four like new Justice Dems are all centrists. Two right-wing parties, U.S. imperialism, police state, 15 an hour, big pharma, big anything.
Mostly majoritarian model of democracy. In these types
the elites
of democracies, two parties naturally rise to power and completely dominate the political arena. Whoever has the most votes, that is, electoral college votes, leads the country, naturally creating the incentive to vote for only those parties who stand a chance of winning. In the US, the Democrats and Republicans. This does a few things. One, it stops third parties from gaining any significant traction. After all, why vote for the party you like better if they have no chance of winning? Two, it stops the two big parties from having to actually be accountable to their core voters, who have no choice but to vote for them so long as they remain preferable to the other option, which they always will. There will always be a, quote, lesser evil. And three, the two parties...
It's like some things that he's saying are not even necessarily wrong. Like, you'll always vote for one as long as they're better than the other, but that's where the differences in policies come from, isn't it?
Parties must now compete over the same centrist voters to have any chance of winning, forcing them closer ideologically. But
isn't that how most successful political systems work? Like, most people, I know that it doesn't seem this way when we're online, and even I'm guilty of this sometimes, most people do not exist at the radical extremes. That's not where the vast majority of voters are, probably in any country ever. The vast majority of voters are not on either extreme. The vast majority of people group up somewhere in the center.
Both parties are already dragged towards the right by their wealthy donors fearful of the unruly masses. The center,
oh my God,
creeps ever so steadily towards the right, and with it goes the entirety of American politics. Every election year, the Democrats elected to the highest levels of power get there by feeding us the same lines. They say, "We alone provide an alternative to the past X years of disaster and the objectionable Republican figurehead. We alone are the barrier that prevents the free reign of regressive, conservative politics. Surely you wouldn't vote for the fascist." And yet, in the very same breath, they assure us that they need to work across the aisle, that our democracy hinges on their need to move towards the center and capture the mythical swing voters who decide the election.
People say that, but people always make fun of the mythical swing vote. It's not the mythical, it's the centrist voters. But like, it worked. Like, Hillary was able to capture a lot of centrist voters. Like, that was borne out in the data. People that don't appeal to the center end up getting fucking crushed, right? Believe it or not, I'm pretty sure that Trump was like, it's really hard to draw these political axes because of like the different policies, but I think I would argue that Trump was probably more centrist than like Rubio or Ted Cruz. I think you could make that argument. I really do. Because Trump did not have a history of being a neocon, like a traditional kind of like conservative person. Early on in the cycle, he was relatively chill about things like Planned Parenthood, which most Republicans fucking hate. This was before he was elected. Now, once he was elected, shit got really fucking weird, right? Like, to compare the Planned Parenthood thing, he was saying shit like women that have abortions should be fucking executed, or not executed, but should be charged with crime. But like in the actual primaries, I think Trump came off quite a bit more center-leaning, and even also made tons of appeals to negotiating with both sides. Like Trump I remember watching Trump doing interviews where he was like, what about these things like inverted, like corporate inversion? Dems say they don't like it, Republicans say they don't like it. Like, why haven't we solved this? Right? I'll bring people together and work together. Like Trump talked all the time about negotiating between the left and right. Like, I would have to go back because obviously the landscape changed a lot once he was elected. But I'm pretty sure that through the primary process, Trump did a lot of non-traditional things. When it came to Republicans. Yeah, he made nice comments about Caitlyn Jenner. He held like a fucking pride flag. He wasn't as big of a war hawk as traditionally Republicans were. He attacked like military vets, like McCain sometimes, although McCain wasn't that popular in the Republican Party, but yeah. Trump did not run as an extreme right-wing figure in the Republican Party. Absolutely not. But
according to them, this is the only reasonable approach. This is what it means to be electable. All the while, American politics move steadily further right. There is some hope, though.
Why is it that we don't have this deluge of left-leaning, or of leftist fucking politicians winning all these elections, though, if that's the case?
Within the Democratic Party, progressive figures...
Destiny, he did have an evangelical VP. He did, but my take on that, and I could be wrong, but my take on that was that Pence was brought in as the evangelical vice president to shore up Trump's weakness with the evangelical crowd. Because Trump was not a standard, like, and Trump has a history of being, like, affiliated with Democrats, right? Like, Trump was at fucking, like, the Clinton wedding and shit, and he's been seen publicly, like, supporting, you know, like, other Democratic politicians, you know?
Are gaining traction and getting elected. The policies that are considered too far left by corporate Democrats, like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal, are
like the Green New Deal is not just, it's just not, this is opposed by the AFL-CIO, which is the largest conglomerate of fucking unions in the United States. How are you going to say it's just corporate Dems that oppose this? Dude, this is such a shitty fucking, I hate this guy so much.
Actually the policies that are kicking them out of office and earning their more progressive counterparts a spot at the table. That being said, progressive politicians regularly find themselves defanged by their corporate counterparts. Over time,
corporate counterparts,
they are assimilated into the centrist fold with every concession to the party's elite. So, while electoral politics do provide some short-term gains, most notably starting the radicalization process of many apathetic Americans, actual change will only come from popular grassroots movements. If you're looking for ways to get involved, see if any groups near you are looking for help. Joining your local chapter of a national group like the DSA, or any of the several left-wing political parties, or your city's mutual aid collective can have a bigger impact than you think. The main takeaway is this. The United States is run by a two-party corporate duopoly. Both the Republicans and the Democrats are beholden to the same corporate interests. And both parties are dedicated to the maintenance of the untenable and increasingly dystopian neoliberal status quo. Both our major parties are right-wing. This trend will only continue to get worse until the left, the real left, can mount an effective opposition to this deeply flawed and inhumane political project. If we want to make real, positive, lasting change, if we want to safeguard future generations against climate fallout, if we want to stop the inevitable transformation of neoliberalism into outright fascism, we have our work cut out for us. So let's get to work.
Just like the corpos in
Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk.
At the beginning of this,
I can't believe this channel has over 1 million subs. Like, this is like the most shallow level. Like, there is no real analysis here, right? If this is an essay, which it's arguably presented as an essay, we don't even get like good arguments. It's just like, here's a bunch of shit you already agree with. I'm not gonna like actually put forth any controversial or strong statement or defend it with any fact. Like, here's just a collection of things that has happened. Here's like the argument I'm putting forward, like, soy guys, soy, yeah, soy, yeah, yeah, soy, yeah. Like, this is in its purest form. This is in its purest form. I think just political propaganda. Like, it has absolutely no substance. 2,991 Patreons. Income hidden, of course. This guy has a second channel where he drives expensive cars? Wait, no way. Link me. I don't believe you. Wait, does he actually? No shot. Link or ban. Wait, no. No way, dude. This is not real. Hold on. No possible.
Excuse us, don't mind us, just coming through.
Just coming through. And also, the headlights and the back tail lights.
Yeah.
Both of them.
As opposed to the front tail lights.
Yeah, whatever, shut up. they are shaped in swoopies.
Yeah, the McLaren
like
swoopy.
The McLaren swoop.
The engine compartment back behind us is completely open.
It's totally see-through. It just has like a mesh.
If you've been on the channel for a while, you've probably heard me mention the secret project I've
You've probably heard. Oh, he says that. I know that.
been working on with Joseph from Real Life Lore. Well, after almost a year of planning and shooting, we're finally ready to launch. As of
I feel like I'm living in a simulation. Wait, are we actually serious? Dude, I'm just waiting for I'm just waiting for like this guy to pull up. Like, so here I am driving my Lamborghini that I made on my socialist channel. I'm driving to actually WeHo today. I'm gonna go visit my other socialist friend who just bought a $2.7 million mansion, Hassan Piker. Like this shit like writes itself. What the fuck? Now, and then the response to the tweets when I make fun of it is, oh, so socialism is when you don't own a car? Socialism equals no car. I see, Destiny.
Right now, you can catch our new car show, Grand Test Auto, right here on YouTube. We review everything from muscle cars to electrics to autocycles, supercars, and of course, the Toyota Corolla. Grand Test Auto will always be free and supported by sponsors here on YouTube. But if you'd like to watch the show ad-free and see new episodes months before everybody else, you can sign up for an account on Nebula and watch Grand Test Auto along with tons of other original content from your favorite educational YouTubers. Either way, we've had a lot of fun making this new show, and we hope you guys will love it too. So, if you like cars, or you just want to see Second Thought and Real Life Lore joke about how bad the Corolla is for 20 minutes, come check out Grand Test Auto by following the link below.
On Twitter.
Lusted after many cars before that we've driven, particularly the i8, and the Model S P100D, were two cars I lusted after so much. But I do lust after this even more than either of those two.
Nothing like this.
The Lamborghini Urus. We can't say. I know. It's just. I don't know, man. Okay. After so many vids about climate change, you're gonna upload videos about supercars. Am I the only one who sees the hypocrisy? Do as I say, as I do. Don't be ignorant. The 6 biggest cruise ship, 6 produce more emissions than every car on the road. Focus your anger where it counts. I mean, technically that's true, but it's just. What? How? What are the chances? That guy has a channel where he reviews supercars. That's just so funny to me. We truly live in a society, indeed.
Hold on. Yeah. Sorry, hold on. I have to do this real quick because I see every time I bring this topic up, there's always some dumb fuck that thinks he's super clever by posting that same comic saying, oh, curious, you participate in a society, you live in it, blah, blah, blah. And they think that they're making like a really good point. So the reason why you would say that like, oh, well, if you're a socialist, like that doesn't necessarily mean you have to live by your ideals is because when people say that, they're talking about like fucking like bricklayers that are making like $15,000 a year. Those are the people that can't afford to live by socialist ideals because they're not only like a part of the system, they are literally enslaved to the system and are being actively destroyed by the system. It's so funny because Republicans have all these poor, stupid, white redneck fucks around here like defending these like racist ideas to defend like capitalist owners and shit, and they're tools. Like poor white people are tools of wealthy Republicans. However, you poor dumb fuck people on the left are just as much tools by the rich fucking socialists online that do nothing with their money to live any of their ideals as well. Like you've got these people online now on the left, like people like Sean and Jen that make 2 videos a year that are collecting over 10,000 quid a month on their fucking Patreon for doing no fucking work, or these other big left-leaning content creators that are making well over 7 figures a year that do nothing with their money to help their cause, right? And what's their excuse? Like, oh, well, I live in a society. It's like, dude, motherfucker, you don't live in a society. You thrive in the society, okay? You are at the top, okay? You're on the upper echelon. You are the 1% earner, okay? You cannot use the excuse, well, I live in a society, so of course I'm a slave to it. No, motherfucker, you have so much money. Do something with it. If you truly, really believe these ideas, if these are really something that you feel so strong about that you fucking turn your stream on every day to talk to it, if you expect to mobilize your audience in believing about it, but you're not going to do anything yourself, what the fuck is wrong with you? No, fuck that shit. You can't use that like, oh, well, just because I'm a socialist doesn't mean I can't have money. Sure, but you better fucking do something with it, because if you just sit there and invest it or sit in and do fuck all with it, what's the difference between you and a fucking capitalist? Like, congratulations, you've got a YouTube channel, you scream at other people to act like socialists when you can't even do it when you have the financial means available for you to do so? Fuck that shit. Put your money where your mouth is or shut the fuck up. Or at least acknowledge that most of the people that you follow that call themselves lefties or socialists are worthless fucking grifters, that when the revolution comes, they're going to be sitting behind their fucking white suburban like gates to their neighborhoods just like all of their fucking conservative friends would, all right? That's all I'm saying. Sorry, what's the next question?